What is going on, everybody? My name is Kneeckoh and welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet Violet VGC moveset guide. Today we are getting onto the second Sinnoh starter, INFERNAPE. And INFERNAPE is an interesting one because it didn't really get anything crazy as like a buff like Torterra and Apollyon have, but INFERNAPE is still a really interesting Pokemon, especially with Terrestrialization. I find it to be a very fun Pokemon to use. I've already featured it in a video. Again, that will be linked in the description below if you guys want to check out that INFERNAPE team. But it's just a really cool Pokemon that can dish out a good chunk of damage very quickly. So I want to talk about it here today. If this is your first time here on the channel, make sure you are subbed for more videos like this in the future. And let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you like INFERNAPE? What are your thoughts on its VGC viability? It's kind of squishy, kind of frail, so it's kind of interesting. So let's talk about it. So I've got two different INFERNAPEs here, really. I've got two here. Because of INFERNAPE's abilities, it has two real playstyles. So you have Iron Fist. Obviously, this is going to boost the amount of damage that your punch attacks do. So things like Fire Punch, Mach Punch, Drain Punch. It does also get access to Thunder Punch. There it is for water coverage. So decent amount of things that this Pokemon could do with Iron Fist. Pretty interesting. This is the type of INFERNAPE that I used on the INFERNAPE team that I was talking about at the start of the video. I'm running this with a clear amulet. Water Terra type's nice just for that ability to get away from your weaknesses. And then again, Fire Punch, Mach Punch for priority, Drain Punch, and Protect. Really solid. You could just keep Drain Punch and getting health back, or you could rotate out Drain Punch for Thunder Punch for that additional coverage option. Just a really solid all-around set. I really do like this one. Now, I built in that video, I will admit, that INFERNAPE is a little too calced for HP. Like, it's like 196 HP or something like that. I don't even remember. Let me look. It's still here. Yeah, 192 HP is what I calced it for. And that's because I was worried about this Pokemon being as frail as it is. And I definitely didn't get as much out of the INFERNAPE as I wanted to, so I definitely say invest more in attack. This is just some random spread that I threw in, so definitely invest more in attack for this particular Pokemon. You're going to get a lot more out of it in that fashion. The second set is an interesting one. We're running Blaze here because we want to get that bonus fire type damage by getting to minimal health, right? And you're pairing this with a Focus Sash, so that way you could get to that 1 HP and do extra damage. But INFERNAPE did get access to a new move in Pokemon Legends Arceus, this being Raging Fury. Now, this, if you don't know, is just fire type outrage. You're going to have 2 to 3 turns of just smacking stuff for 120 power, and it's a random target. So it's a very interesting and very situational move, but with as Pokemon as fast as INFERNAPE and as strong as INFERNAPE, having something like this where you can hit something really hard for big damage, they take you down to Sash, and then you get a buff on that, plus you could Terra Fire to get even more damage. It's a really, really interesting and niche way to play INFERNAPE, and I think it's really fun. I messed around with it a bit in my Showdown builder, so I think it's a definite option. Maybe not the best option for this particular Pokemon, but I don't think this Pokemon is the best VGC Pokemon anyways. So definitely a fun way to play this particular Pokemon for sure. Now, I specifically want to talk about Pokemon that are well partnered with INFERNAPE, because this Pokemon is kind of frail, like I mentioned, and there are some things that can really benefit it and help you get the most out of it prior to it going down inevitably. So first and foremost, Tailwind Setters are really nice for this Pokemon. It allows you to get out there and do some stuff, knock out some Pokemon, give you the speed boost that you need to deal with things like Flutter Mane, etc. So, you know, having something like this that can Tailwind or Sunny Day to boost your fire type damage, really, really nice for INFERNAPE. So I definitely think that Tailwind Setters to any capacity are really nice for INFERNAPE. Anything that can set the sun, so looking at things like Ninetales we have access to again. Torkoal, maybe you run like Eject Pack Torkoal or something, kind of like they did with Jumpluff back in, like, what was that, Reg C? So yeah, there's some options here with Ninetales and Torkoal as potential partners to give you that sun boost. Could be pretty interesting. Having a water type with INFERNAPE is nice, something that can rotate in and take the damage from a water type attack, or even just having it next to a grass type is really nice, like Rillaboom or Ogerpon, you know, things like that that can rotate in and take those water type hits very comfortably is incredibly nice. But the Pokemon that I really, really find to be a solid partner to a lot of things that are super frail is Alolan Ninetales, right? We talked about normal Ninetales because of drought, but Alolan Ninetales with Aurora Veil is incredibly solid as a partner for this particular Pokemon, because you can get Aura Veil up. You're a very fast Pokemon naturally. You get it up and just allow your more frail Pokemon to stay on the field and do a ton of damage while they're sitting behind double screens. And I just find this Pokemon to be really nice. Even if you're not planning on running a snow team, this Pokemon is just incredibly solid. So very, very nice to have this Pokemon and have the ability to get double screens up and allow your frail Pokemon to just sit and eat attacks. Very solid. So I do think that Infernape really pairs nicely with Alola Ninetales. This is actually what I did on that Infernape team that I discussed earlier in the video. Pokemon that don't necessarily like seeing Infernape, one is Fluttermane. Fluttermane is just not bulky enough defensively, right? So you can come in with a Fire Punch or come in with a Raging Fury, hit Fluttermane really hard, Fluttermane's gonna go down, right? So I do really like the matchup into Fluttermane, especially because they have to hit you with Shadow Ball. You're resistant to, you know, Dazzling Gleam and Moonblast from being well, actually, unless you Terra Fire, you will get hit for neutral because you do have that fighting type as well. Always forget about Infernape's fighting type. And then other Pokemon, Rillaboom obviously is a nice matchup for you. Rillaboom's pretty solid because, again, you're just going to be able to hit this very hard. Looking at Heatran, Heatran you can play into pretty effectively. You can hit it with your fighting type moves very, very powerfully. There's just a lot of Pokemon right now as far as steel types go that you can hit for decent damage with your fighting type moves on Infernape. A lot of them you do have to be cautious of because this one has Earth Power and Polion obviously being a water type. So there are Pokemon that you got to keep your eye out for, but a lot of things just don't like taking close combats from Infernape. Ogerpon is another one that you can deal with pretty effectively. Ogerpon does have some issues into Infernape simply because Ogerpon's really frail. Everybody and their mother is like, Ogerpon's overpowered, Ogerpon's overpowered. And yes, I might have made a short saying that Ogerpon is busted, but regardless of that, it's really not that strong, okay? It's a strong Pokemon, don't get it twisted, but it is very easily manageable. It gets knocked out very quickly, so it's not the end-all be-all. So Infernape can deal with Ogerpon pretty effectively. That's another one that it matches up pretty decently into. Goldango doesn't like taking fire-type hits from it. Kingambit isn't going to like any of your fighting type attacks. So a lot of Pokemon that are popping up right now just really don't like some of the stuff that Infernape can throw their way. Now, Pokemon you aren't going to necessarily like seeing. First thing that comes to mind is Milotic. This Pokemon is running around and causing a lot of issues right now. It's a very good Pokemon. I've already talked about that one in a moveset guide. Other Pokemon that you're going to have some issues dealing with, I had it in my head, Wellspring Ogerpon. Wellspring Ogerpon is going to cause problems for you. You're going to be getting hit pretty hard by those Ivy Cudgels. So that is something to note. As far as rock types go, I mean, Cornerstone Ogerpon is seeing some use, not a ton. Looking at things like Landorus is going to be a problem for you, or Harknine can be a problem for you. Harknine is a little bit of a better matchup because you can hit it with a Mach Punch or something if it's already been damaged. You can hit it with a Mach Punch and potentially knock it out, but getting hit by a Rock Slide by this thing is not going to feel amazing. Blood Moon Ursaluna is an interesting one if you're going into the Trick Room setup. Some are running the Terra Normal, but there is that Assault Vest variant running around that's running Terra Fairy that is incredibly solid. It's a very good combo for this particular Pokemon. So if it's running that Terra Fairy, you are going to have a very difficult time dealing with that Blood Moon Ursaluna. This set is incredibly solid, running like Blood Moon, Earth Power, Hyper Voice, and not Hyper Beam, don't worry about that, Hyper Voice, and running Moonblast with it. Very solid set that's running around, really powerful, can do a lot of damage, and it covers for a lot of weaknesses that Ursaluna has. Really, really solid. So this is running around. You are seeing this here and there. Can cause problems for Infernape, just something to note. And even under Trick Room, you're not going to be that incredibly fast. Dealing with it, you're going to have to rely on your Mach Punches and hope like Farigiraf or Psychic Terrain isn't up and be able to hit this before it hits you. Even still, you're going to not take damage incredibly well from Blood Moon Ursaluna under Trick Room. So just something to note in that regard. Same could be said for standard Ursaluna. This thing is occasionally running Terra Ghost. Not seeing as much play as Blood Moon right now, and I don't know if that's because it's like flavor of the month scenario or if it's because it's actually better. I think there's a use case for both of the Pokemon, and I think they're both very good, so I still think we're going to see normal Ursaluna pop up a fair bit alongside its counterpart Blood Moon. Other stuff that is still popping up that you need to be cautious of. Let me see. There are rain teams running around right now. So honestly, like Pelipper is a huge threat. You don't really necessarily think of Pelipper as a big threat, but Pelipper can do some massive damage. That 95 special attack is no joke. So definitely a Pokemon you need to keep your eye on, especially with the rain teams running around right now, you know, with like Wellspring, Ogerpon. There's a lot of Swift Swimmers running around right now. I think Poliwrath gets Swift Swim, if I'm not mistaken. You're going to see a lot of cheeky stuff with all these new Pokemon. So, like, Poliwrath has Swift Swim. Ludicolo's my favorite Swift Swimmer that was added in the DLC. So, a lot of stuff that you need to keep an eye on as far as Rain Team goes. Can cause some real problems. So, definitely something to note there. But that really covers Infernape here. And stuff you need to be aware of, stuff you need to think about when you're adding it to your team. I think it's a fun Pokemon to play with. I don't think it's the best Pokemon. It's not Empoleon, right? Empoleon is actually very solid as a Pokemon that you could add to a lot of teams in Regulation E. This is more of a, like, I want to spice up my team a bit. Let me throw Infernape on there, right? So that's just my thoughts on the Pokemon. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But if at any point you enjoyed this video, leave a like and sub for more videos like this in the future. Also, be sure to check out the Discord. People over there hanging out, playing Pokemon all the time. And if you want to see anything else from me, check out any of the videos that you see here on screen. But until next time, peace.